moreover a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other.
Right, the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. What is that? The bees and the Persians?
Yeah, the Persians.
Right. So if you were up here breaking it down, how would you break down that one horn was higher than the other? How would you break it? I just say don't think too hard about it. You're right. Just don't. It's a simple. You're right. You are right. Exactly. The bees came up first, right? The bees came up first, but the Persians ended up being the more powerhouse kingdom. Came out on top. They came out on top. Pretty much the bees, pretty much combined it into the Persian Empire, right? But yeah, you was right. Go ahead.
It says, but one, halfway through verse 8, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last.
Right, there it is. The higher came up last, which is the Persians. Go ahead.
Verse 4, and I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward.
Right, I seen the ram pushing westward and northward and southward. You see that? And that's that when you go into Daniel, the 7th chapter, that's the 3 ribs in the mouth of the excuse me, never mind. I'm thinking of the Persian Empire. But pretty much the westward is going towards Babylon. The northward is like Asia Minor, and southward is like going towards Egypt. But he already came from the east. You know, go ahead.
It says, and I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great.
Right. And talking about the Greek Empire coming on the scene. There was no army or military that could stop the Greek Empire due to the spirit that the Lord put upon them. For prophecy's sake, at the end of the day. Prophecy had to be fulfilled. Right?
Talking about the Persians?
No, this is the Greeks. Okay. Yeah.
Verse 5, it says, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came.
Excuse me, the Persians. Read that again. I'm getting something mixed up. Read the go up 2 verses and read it again. Salaki for the campus. Go ahead. Because I was right originally when it said he pushed northward, eastward, and southward. That's going into the Persians. That's the 3 ribs in the mouth of the bear. So read that again. I want to just clarify for the campus.
Because after that it says devour much flesh.
Right.
Right. It says, and I saw the ram pushing. If you want to start even more up.
No, you can start right there.
Okay. Verse 4, it says, and I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward.
Right, the ram is the Persian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire pushing westward, northward, and southward. Which I was right originally. I was getting mixed up for some reason, but that's the 3 ribs at the mouth of the bear. Right? It really goes into a sense of direction. I mean, you got people that say Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt, but it's really in the sense of direction. Right? Go ahead.
It says, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand.
Right. This is still talking about the Medo-Persian Empire, which is very, very great and a very vast empire, the Achaemenid Empire. Right? Go ahead.
It says, but he did according to his will and became great.
Right.
And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth.
Right, the he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth. You see? He came from the west. And this is talking about over there by Macedonia and Greece. Which the he-goat is talking about the rise of the Greek Empire. Go ahead.
It says, and a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Right, that notable horn is talking about Alexander the Greek. He said that he touched not the ground, meaning the swiftness. That's how fast he conquered the known world at the time. This lines up with Daniel the 7th chapter where it says a leopard that had on the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, representing the swiftness of how fast Alexander conquered. He conquered the known world in 13 years. This is a which was unknown at that time. Yeah, research.
Yeah. This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. It says, and it happened after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persia, of the Persians and Medes.
Yep. That lines right up with history. See, when you read in the Maccabees, which is in the Apocrypha, Alexander the Great is mentioned in the Bible. And when you look at this manuscript, he only has like maybe 40-something manuscripts. You know, and people liking him to be a notable person in history. You know, but when it comes to the scriptures, they say it's fake. But here it is, a real prominent individual is mentioned in the Bible.
It's Isaiah chapter 34, verse 16. It says, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. For my mouth hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. Pretty much, you know, the book of the Lord, man, it doesn't tell no lies. You know, the scriptures, everybody think that the Bible's been tampered with, but it actually lines up with like history. You know what I'm saying? This is a history book with you know, and that's living, man. And it tells you about the future events too. It talks about that in I think Wisdom of Solomon. It tells you wisdom tells you of past events and the future things. You know, but nobody has the answers except the men of the Lord.
Declaring the end to the beginning. You know? Jaquan, you had a precept?
Well, I had just going into that battle between the ram and the goat, the he-goat. You know, just the history on it. Because that battle was it's called the Battle of Gaugamela. So when this happened, you know, because they had, you know, different skirmishes and different battles, you know, throughout history. This was like the final decisive battle between the Grecian Empire and the Persian Empire, right? So it says the Battle of Gaugamela, also called the Battle of Arbela, took place in 331 BC between the forces of the army of Macedon under Alexander the Great and the Persian army under King Darius III. So that's their ram and that he-goat. It was the second final battle between the two kings, and is considered to be the final blow to the Achaemenid Empire, resulting in complete conquest by Alexander. You haven't read it already.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. The water freezing out. Because there's a couple battles that they have this. No, that might have been Persians. I gotta go back into that history. I think it's the Battle of Thermopylae. Yeah, Battle of Marathon. I think that was another one. That was another major battle that the Greeks had. You know, but like what the brother just read in the history, the Battle of Gaugamela, saying that correctly, was the last decisive battle between the Persian Empire and the Greek Empire, which brought the Greeks into power, man. You know.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
Right, he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. See, he was a prominent ruler, a prominent king over the Greek Empire. His father was Philip II of Macedon. But Alexander pretty much put you know, Greek on the map big time. You know?
Yes. Verse 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him.
Right, the earth was quiet before him because he was that third beast read about in Daniel the 7th chapter, that leopard with the 4 wings on the back is found in the 4 heads. He was also the loins of brass in Daniel chapter 2. The Greek Empire, man. You know? So for prophecy's sake, that had to happen for prophecy's sake. Okay? So let's jump back to Daniel 8.
This is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 5. It says, "And as I was considering, behold, an eagle came from the west on the whole face, or on, Slaki, and a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes."
Right?
And I wanted to get that word notable real quick.
Yeah, okay.
This is the word notable, Strong's H2380. It's Chazawath, and it means vision, a vision, oracle of a prophet. You know, and we already broke that down, how when Alexander, prior to his conquest, he was given that vision. You know, he was given that that vision from on high. So that literally links him directly to this chapter right here. You know,
I want to say another word in there is like conspicuous.
Yep.
Conspicuous means something that's protruding out, like something that's sticking out. See, and Alexander sticked out in prophecy, man. For prophecy's sake, he was conspicuous. You know, no, he was a notable horn. He was that notable horn. You know. Yeah.
Verse 6, it says, "And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power.
Right.
And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns."
Right. He smoked the ram. All right, and broke his 2 horns. It was the Medo-Persian Empire, man. And he became the king of Persia at that time. He became the king of Babylon at that time. He became the king of Egypt at that time. You know? So now hold that real quick. And then you grab Daniel 11 real fast and start the top. But I'm going to read this first. It says, so I'm going to go back up to the top here, or the part where I stopped. It says, "For I saw this very person in the dream, in this very habit, when I was at Dios in Macedonia, who, when I was considering with myself how I might obtain the dominion of Asia, exhorted me to make no delay, but boldly to pass over the sea thither, for that he would conduct my army and would give me the dominion over the Persians." That's what we just read. "Whence it is that, having seen no other in that habit, and now seeing this person in it, and remembering that vision, and the exhortation which I had in my dream, I believe that I bring this army under the divine conduct, and shall therewith conquer Darius and destroy the power of the Persians, and that all things will succeed according to what is in my own mind." But the thing that was in his own mind wasn't his own thought. The thing that was in his mind was placed in his mind by Yahweh Bashman Shah for prophecy's sake. Once again, right? It says, "And when he had said this to Parmenio, and had given the high priest his right hand, the priest ran along by him, and he came into the city. And when he went up into the temple, he offered sacrifice to the Most High, according to the high priest's direction, and magnificently treated both the high priest and the priest. And when the book of Daniel was shown him, wherein Daniel declared that one of the Greeks should destroy the empire of the Persians," which is what we're reading, "he supposed that himself was the person intended." See that? So he pretty much, the priest opened up the book of Daniel, the scroll of Daniel, and showed him, like, look, you see the notable horn and the goat that's going to crush the ram, the vision that Daniel's seen, this is you. You know, and Alexander knew it was him. You know? It says, "And as he was then glad, he dismissed the multitude for the present. But the next day he called them to him and bid them ask what favors they please of him. Whereupon the high priest desired that they might enjoy the laws of their forefathers, and might pay no tribute on the 7th year. He granted all they desired. And when they entreated him that he would permit the Jews in Babylon and Media to enjoy their own laws also, he willingly promised to do hereafter what they desired." I'm almost done. But he said to the multitude that if any of them would enlist themselves in his army on this condition, that they should continue under the laws of their forefathers and live according to them, he was willing to take them with him. Many were ready to accompany him in his war. So you had a lot of Jacob that accompanied Alexander in his battles, all right, conquering these different nations. Hence is why you also had Jake that was also in these different nations as well too. These different lands, right? Go ahead.
Building on the brother's point that he just brought out, man. This is Revelation chapter 10, verse 11. It says, "And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings." And you can read in the book of Ecclesiasticus how it says things that that have been, are here to come, or they're going to happen again. Everything has a season. The Lord works in cycles pretty much. All right, so these kings, just like the kings of the ancient world and the past time, they had to come to the prophets to understand how the world was going to play out on the stage. Right, the same thing is going to happen now. All right, so best believe the elites, they're watching the videos. Right, they essentially. I'm speaking as a man. When shit pop off, man, they're gonna be asking, the elders questions. But speaking as a man, they don't have to show that one understanding. So they come to it. So
that's right. The blood going into it. You know what I'm saying? There's a prophecy already. Been prophecy already said that certain kingdoms will rule on the planet Earth. So like the brother was going into, man, in the 8th chapter, we can get that again in the 7th chapter. We can get that, just to back that up.
I have what you're saying. This is Hebrews 11:3. It says, "Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of the Most High, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear." And I bring this out, kind of a lot, but when you go into that word worlds, it's ion, which is an age or a period of time. So those periods of time, the periods of times that were mentioned in Daniel the 7th chapter and other prophecies, all those played out, all right, in the flesh. Which is why we should have confidence. Why should we have faith?
That's right.
That's
pull this view. Break it down. Actually, read verse 15.
Colossians 1:15.
It's Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. It says, "Who is the image of 14?" It's Colossians 1 and 14, "in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins."
Right, speaking about Yahweh Shai, redeemed through his blood. That word redeemed means bought back. We were purchased by the blood. That was what was necessary in order for us to receive, the Ruach Kodash, and wake up in these times. You keep on.
Verse 15, I'm going to start at verse 14. "In whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible power, the firstborn of every creature."
Right, and that's why the scriptures call Yahweh Shai the only begotten. When you go into that word only begotten, it basically means the first one to come forth. In the very beginning, it tells you that in John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word. In the beginning, when it was just the Heavenly Father, had him speak, or basically, bring Yahweh Shai into existence. He was that first spirit